So, it's week 7, on to some topics that separate the women from the girls and the men from the boys. Asynchronous JavaScript. And we are looking today at 2 ways that we can control the flow of what runs first in our application. Yeah, so if we want to run one function after another, are we just a slave to the program that we've written, or can we actually control that flow of our application and of our file in some way? So there are a few methods. Previously, the only way to do it was through callbacks, and then we got promises in 2005, and then we got the async await syntax, which is essentially just promises under the hood in 2017, 18, not quite sure, to be honest. I had to look it up, but a little bit more modern. So Ricardo will cover async await tomorrow. I will go through as much of callbacks and promises as I can today, but he might just pick up the tail end of promises as well. Cool, so essentially we have 2 functions in front of us. We have do some slow stuff function and do some quicker stuff function. And my question to you to begin with is, what order will the console logs print out in, based on how we have called them on lines 14 and 15. So Porik's suggestion was do slow stuff will start first, and then when that has finished, do quicker stuff will then run. Is that your suggestion, Porik? Yeah. Okay. So Ewan's gone for the exact opposite. Where's Ewan? You on that list? Yeah. So we got quicker. Was it quick and then slow? Right. Quick and slow.
I think it's gonna do slow and quicker, but it won't necessarily wait for slow to finish.
It's slow, it's okay.
So quicker will probably.
Ewan, do you think quicker will just run straight away? Yeah, that will be the first thing that runs. Or is there any gap in between them, or what? Sorry, yeah, 1 second. So Aeneas said slow will start first. So no wait. And then maybe quicker finishes first, yeah? Alright, so that's the actual functions themselves, Ewan. So what have we got inside the functions? Well, we've got a couple of timeouts as well.
You should run the quick stuff first, but by lots of things from the top down. So slow first and then quick.
Slow first and then quick still. What did you say? Quicker then slow. Yeah, so these are all the types of questions that we're looking at, right? Does our application just run top down? In other words, does do slow run first and then do quicker stuff? Do the declarations come before the function calls? All those sorts of things, yeah? So we need to consider quite a lot. We need to consider what timeout does. Is that giving some sort of delay to these functions? So we've got a second argument for both of our timeouts, right? We've got the function itself, which will just log something to the console. And then we've got this second argument. So the slow task has got 2,000 and the quicker task has 1,000. What do those things mean? What does 1,000 and 2,000 mean? Seconds? What? So we're going to have to wait 2,000 seconds for this example to run? Yeah, I'm going home before then. Probably not, it's not that long, but... Yeah, so it's a milliseconds timeout, yeah? So in other words, after 2,000 milliseconds, or 2 seconds, the inner part of this set timeout function will run. So only after 2 seconds has passed will the console.log run. Yeah, and likewise for this, but this is only 1 second. So back to the original question, if we've invoked do slow stuff and then do quicker stuff like that on lines 14 and 15, what will get printed to the console and in what order? So you can see the code, so I'm just saying what gets printed to the console and in what order.
We get the quicker task has completed, then the slow task has completed.
Yep, so Richard is saying that console.log, the quicker task has completed. That bit will get displayed first in the console. Why, Richard?
Because it will finish after only 1 second.
Yeah. So it's nothing to do with what got called first, because clearly we can see that the do slow stuff, that code began first because it got invoked, but this inner part of the function won't be completed until after 2 seconds has passed. So these are almost instantaneous, right? A function call is microseconds, yeah? It takes no time at all. But we're telling it to wait for 2 seconds. This one has been called, telling it to wait for 1 second. So yeah, we should see in our console.log that the quicker task does complete first. Let's just double check that.
Sounds right.
Sort of, Ewan, sort of. There's no waiting involved. Both tasks almost start simultaneously. So it's not like we take 3 seconds in total. If you notice, we probably just take 2 seconds in total, right? So 1, 2. Oh, hold on, that didn't look like it worked, right?
Yeah, no, it worked.
So maybe I need to go 0, 1, 2. There we go, that's better. Cool. So my question now is, that is the standard way JavaScript runs, right? It runs from top to bottom. So we run do slow stuff, we declare that, we run do quicker stuff, declare that, invoke do slow stuff on 14, and then invoke do quicker stuff on line 15. So that's just top down. How do we make do slow stuff finish before do quicker stuff without changing the timeouts or anything? So we leave the functions alone. How do we make the do quicker stuff dependent on the do slow stuff? So it will only run after do slow stuff has completed. What can we use to control the flow of our application in that way? It's one of the things I mentioned at the start. Well, in fact, it all would work, right? Huh? So we could use async await syntax. So Ricardo is going to cover that tomorrow. So the old-fashioned way, the way that we had first in JavaScript before 2015, we could use a callback. Yeah, we could use a callback function. Yeah, so that's why we're covering callbacks, promises, and async await. So any ideas how we would do that? No? So we can write a callback function inside of our do slow stuff. And what would it return? Probably the thing we want it to do next, right? Will that work? Do I need to do something more? Close it. Have I not closed it? Oh yeah, but that would make it more clear. I agree.
We have to call do quicker stuff inside the do slow stuff function.
Yeah, we would have to make sure that we're definitely invoking this function that we passed as a callback. No, we do want to run it, right? Yeah. So where would it go if I put it? So this is essentially an argument that we're passing. It's a higher order function, right? We're passing another function to do slow stuff. Yeah, we're passing this arrow function here in as an argument to do slow stuff. So I'm going to call that callback.
Put it inside the set timeout.
Yeah, we do. I just want to put it inside here first, just to have a point for discussion. What happens if I put it there? Does anything run? Firstly, without. Actually, let's just run it without, just see what happens. So the slow task completes. And that's it. The quicker task doesn't run. Yeah? Because we've defined it as an argument, but we haven't invoked our callback function anywhere. So what we need to do is invoke that callback function somewhere. What happens if I invoke it there? I'm going to try some breakpoints, but they usually fail in Google Chrome, so...
Is it not going to return do quicker stuff first?
Yeah, so the quicker stuff is still going to return first. Look, if we run it, quicker task is completed, then the slow task has completed. Why is that, Ines? Could you explain it?
Because it's going to go straight to line 6 and return the callback function, and then it's going to run line 3 the set timer.
So you think line 3 gets run after line 6? Doesn't like that one for some reason. 15. I'm just trying to put a breakpoint on line 15. It doesn't want to let me. Okay. See, that's why you can never do this workshop with Google Chrome breakpoints. But anyway, out of 3, 6, 4, so 3, 4, 6, and 15, what is the order of those lines? Which runs first? Ewan, Pork, Vince, have a guess? I think 15 will go first. Okay. After 15, what happens next? Is it 6 as an S thought? Is it 3? Is it 4? Any ideas, Nalofa?
3 next.
Ewan says 3 next. Okay.
And then 4.
And then 4.
Sorry, I changed that 4 to 6.
Right. So you've gone 15, 3, 6. Does 4 ever run?
I'd like to change it totally. I'd like to say 15, 6, 3, and 4.
15, 6, 3, and 4. Any alternatives to that? Anyone disagree, agree?
Three.
10 seconds to get some board points. And the loafer's catching everyone up after a good TDD board challenge.
15, 3, 6, 5.
15, 3, 6, 5.
4.
15, 3, 6, 4. Uh-huh. So just the 3 and the 6 were swapped around from Ewan's attempt. So only the first people to, of course, say those get the points, but has anyone got another solution that's any different from Ewan's or Richard's? Nope, okay, I'll run it then. So, 15 definitely runs first, right? We have our 2 function declarations. Line 2 will run, line 9 will run essentially, and store those 2 functions in memory. Then we invoke do slow stuff and pass it a function. So next, line 3 should run, so hopefully it's going to stop on line 3 first. Oh, 15 stopped on there. Wait, hey, look, I didn't even put one there, and now it managed to stop there, so it must have had an invisible breakpoint on there. So 15 comes first, as we said. Then, let's step through it. 3 comes next. So Richard was right there. Then it should wait 2 seconds before it runs the inner part of the set timeout. So during that 2 seconds, it has time to continue on and run anything else inside that function, such as the callback function. So it should next step on line 6. That has started do quicker stuff now. Yeah, because that's our callback. Our callback invokes do quicker stuff. So we've only probably waited a few fractions of a second, and already we have started the do quicker stuff function. That only takes 1 second to complete. So that should complete. I should have put a breakpoint on line 11 as well, really, shouldn't I? But line 11 would then run before line 4 runs, if we had one there. And of course, finally, so the quicker task is completed. Look, the quicker task has already completed. So we can see that line 11 must have run already. And then finally line 4, the slow task completes. Cool. So we pretty much got there with the order of things, but that's not what we wanted. We wanted the slow task to complete before the other task gets invoked. How would we do that? Richard has already offered the solution. Can anyone remember what he said? Put the callback function inside of the set timeout. Fantastic. Get rid of that. So this callback here needs to go inside the set timeout. So therefore we're going to wait 2 seconds before running this inner code. And then it just runs top down. So the console log goes first, and then we invoke the callback. We have to wait another 1 second, and then the do quicker task will finish. Let's test that theory. 1, 2, 1. Yeah? So there we go. That is essentially one way of controlling the flow. Of course, if we then wanted to control something else after do quicker stuff, we'd have to do something like this, right? That in turn invokes another callback. Which in turn could invoke another one, and so on and so on, yeah? You can probably see that this is not going to be a very readable pattern. And you know how much Ricardo likes Street Fighter, and you end up with something like that. Oh, you can, yeah, exactly. So, not very readable at all. Yeah, but you might have needed to do that in your code previously. That's one of the reasons why someone who wasn't it wasn't in the language, yeah, and then someone wrote a library to come up with a better syntax, a better way of handling asynchronous code. And one of the results of that was promises. They then got included into the main JavaScript language because they were viewed as an improvement, and so forth. That's how languages evolve, right? Some clever developer comes up with a better way, and it gets incorporated into a main programming language. So JavaScript now receives yearly updates, right? That's why we have ES5, ES6, and so forth. In fact, ES5 wasn't yearly update. ES6 onwards, we now have yearly updates, right? Every June, we tend to get some new updates to the language. Anyway, so that's callbacks. Should we look at promises next? So how could we rewrite that in promises, and do you think it is an improvement? Any questions on callbacks, sorry, before we move on?
I don't get this picture.
You don't get the picture. So foo is a function. That has a callback function which calls the function bar. That has a callbacks function that calls the function baz. That has a callback function that calls the function, how do you pronounce that? Yeah? And so on. So in other words, that would run first, then that, then that, then that, then that, then that, yeah? Forever, yeah. And we're just making sure that we've got the correct binding for this as well. That's all it is on here, right?
I can imagine it in real life, though.
Yeah, it happens. It used to happen a lot in code, right? And it was horrible to debug and horrible to read, so therefore the language got improved in some way.
So how does bind work for that?
Bind and let's call this, we are covering in a workshop either at the end of this week or next week, but it's too big a topic to go into now with call, apply, and bind and things for let's call this, yeah? This is a big topic as it is, so I need to focus. But thanks for your question. We will definitely deal with it at some point, yeah. Just not now. Okay, so here's a similar example I prepared earlier. So I've just rewritten part of what we need to do with promises. So you see we can wrap the whole of our timeout inside of a promise. So we're using the new keyword again, right, to create a new object, if you like, in JavaScript. Yeah, a promise object. That then takes and a callback function again as its argument, and our callback function is the timeout, right? It's fair to say we have to put in at least one argument into our promise. What you'll often see is two. You'll see resolve and reject are the conventions. We don't have to call them resolve and reject. But in other words, has the promise resolved? Has it succeeded? Or did something go wrong and we rejected that promise? So I'm going to leave those two up there for now. This code isn't complete yet. There are a few mistakes in there, but we're going to fix those as we go on. Essentially what we want to be able to write is a syntax like this. Do slow stuff, then do the quicker stuff. And if we wanted to chain on something else, we just chain on a dot then. Yeah, and so forth. Of course, we can drop that down a line, right, as we're used to. And it's all in line, and we can keep going however many times we like. A bit more readable than the callbacks. Yeah, we're just chaining on dot thens. We can clearly see what comes after one thing. It's not going to work as expected yet, but we're going to fix that. This can also be improved. And do you remember when we did, in fact, Vince's method, right, that I'd totally forgotten about, when we can map things into a number? Yeah, so that was shorthand for what? That was shorthand for taking, oh no, it won't be a number, will it? It will be maybe a string. And mapping that. So maybe call it string num, yeah? And mapping that string num into a number. Yeah, we had something like that, yeah? But we could just use a shorthand, use a shortcut, and just write that instead. So therefore, we can do the same down here, right? We don't have to have an anonymous arrow function. We can simply do that. It's a bit more readable. Yeah, do slow stuff, then do quicker stuff, then do other stuff. Yeah, whatever we want to write. So that is where the big advantage of promises comes in. This syntax. It's quite clear what comes after something else, and it's fairly readable, right, and maintainable. We could then look at each individual function if something's going wrong and work out, hopefully, where our error lies. We would see where in the chain it broke down. We could put catch blocks and error catches in here. Ricardo will probably cover that a little bit tomorrow. I don't think we'll get time today. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, yeah. So that's the syntax that we want to use. So coming back to our do slow stuff function. So we're going to invoke that first. That's going to return a promise. The console log should run. And then we want to do quicker stuff. As it's written at the moment, what do you think will get returned? It's a bit of a trick question, but if anyone can spot it, then very well done. So we've created a promise. Go on, yep.
So you can go up to then.
Yeah, so you're just invoking do slow stuff, running that code. And then, so in other words, after that is completely finished, do the quicker stuff. So instead of using our callback, we're using a promise. So firstly, do we think anything's going to be logged to the console? Are we going to get the slow task as complete? Are we going to get the quicker task as completed? Are we going to get both? What order? Any guesses?
Don't you still need to have something as an argument, or you do slow stuff?
Do we need to send anything in to do slow stuff? I haven't put anything in there.
No, there.
Do you want to give it a... What's your opinion, Richard? What's your opinion? Or not sure?
It should probably be fine.
You think it'll be fine? What, both will run?
Slow stuff, then quick stuff.
Slow stuff, then the quick stuff. So we're going to have the slow task is complete, and then after another second, we're going to have the quicker task has completed. Yeah? Okay. So Richard thinks it's fine.
What does resolve and reject mean?
Ah, good question, Ewan. Yeah, what does resolve and reject mean?
Yeah, we're not resolving or rejecting anything right now.
We're not resolving or rejecting anything right now. Agreed. So does that affect our result in any way? We will cover it later if you've still got questions.
Well, I don't think we're going to be running. The do quicker stuff is probably not going to run.
So Anais is saying the do quicker stuff will never run because we're not resolving or rejecting anything, or because, yeah?
I don't know, just a guess.
Uh-huh. So we've got the combined efforts of Ewan and Anais there to get that answer.
I'd like to see what happens.
Richard would just love to see what happens. I'm holding you in this suspense.
I'm going to say that slow stuff will happen first.
Okay. Slow stuff first, then
Then it will resolve.
resolve, correct
The
says.
console log.
Yeah.
And that's when the quicker stuff will happen only after the slow stuff has been done.
Okay, so you think they're both going to run, but they will go in the correct order. It will take 3 seconds to get through the whole. Cool. Yeah.
So do slow stuff will go first. And then quicker stuff will come second.
Any advance, Vince, or should I just run it?
Because recheck won't happen, will it? Because you did put a catch.
Error check won't happen because it didn't create a catch. Yeah, there might not be an error though. Is there an error?
No, I'm just
It's,
saying.
yeah.
There's no error really. So do.
There might be. I don't know. I haven't run it yet. There could be lots of errors. I could have written incredibly poor code here.
What's in the code?
I'm gonna run it. Yep. Here we go.
Okay.
Slow task is complete. Slow task is complete. Nothing else seems to be happening. Ewan and Anais, yep. Pretty much spot on. So, why is the question, right? So this code didn't cause any errors, but it seems that the dot then is not getting called, yeah? We're not moving on to the next part in the chain. And that is essentially because we haven't resolved our promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that resolved? So, yeah.
How do we resolve a promise?
You need to have resolve parentheses under the set timeout.
Under the set
Well, no,
timeout?
the whole, like,
You mean under
Yeah, yeah.
console log? Yeah.
where you were.
Where I've done it, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not.
Just like that, yeah?
Within set timeout.
Within set timeout?
Yeah.
Under console.
Yeah. Within set timeout. So that's
Where does it
After
end?
the slow task is complete.
so cut and paste that.
After there, yeah?
Yeah.
After line 5 basically.
Yep, should be done now. Slight lag on YouTube. Okay, let's run it again, see whether that works. Slow task. Ooh, quicker task as well. Nice. Very, very good.
Oh, still lazy.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
You only just noticed.
if yeah. If we combine your two names into the ultimate form, then
Rejection will be hands.
and we do the same. Does that work, or does it have to be resolve? Is it a resolve method, or what are we doing?
I guess it would work.
Will it work?
I say it will work.
You reckon it'll work? The power of UAS is. Yeah, let's see. And it does. So it doesn't actually matter what you call this first argument. Just remember to invoke it to resolve your promise. But the convention, of course, is resolve. If you use that one, I think a lot of developers that you work with would be very confused, but maybe that's what you want to achieve. And as Ricardo says, you confuse smart people smarter than you, and you get to keep your job, right? Because they don't know how to maintain your code. So it's a sneaky tactic. Anyway, yeah, so that resolves our promise, and then the other one will run. Of course, we could chain on further things. We could chain on further things if we rewrote this as a promise. I've just left it for now because I was lazy. Next important thing, how do we pass information from do slow stuff, so our first task, onto do quicker stuff? How would we pass information on from one function to the next?
What result do you want instead?
Sort of inheritance.
Yeah, so let's say I just wanted to do another console.log and say the message from do, what was it called? Do slow, that one, do slow stuff is something, yeah? Is there sabotage going on?
It's the one cheating, and I'm the one being
Cheating? Oh, you're on Google. You're Googling why I say these questions.
She's like, oh, I'm Googling. She's like, what?
Do you want me to rephrase the question, Vince, so that it gets a good Google answer or something like that? Yeah? So, how do I pass a message from do slow stuff and print that message to the console when do quicker stuff runs? What can I do?
Don't cry, baby. It's okay.
Yeah, crying's not going to work in this case.
Pass something to the resolve function.
Pass something to the resolve function. That is Richard's idea. What do we think about that? What does Google say, Vince?
I would have thought you'd have to put pass the log up to the parent and then.
No, we don't have to do anything that complicated. We're not dealing with React components. We don't have to pass things up. We can just pass it straight on. So,
Pass the argument.
Yeah, he googled it.
is Richard right? That's what you're saying here, Richard. We pass something into the resolve function, and then how? Sorry.
It will come out as an argument in the then function. So
And it will
then,
come out as an argument in the then function.
The first parameter of the callback.
So do I need to do something in there or in?
So we'll say callback, and then we'll call do quicker stuff. With the
So you want to write it the longhand way again? Yeah, you want to write it as a callback or? Okay.
And in the parentheses we'll put
Message? Yeah.
And,
MSG. That'll do it.
yeah, and we'll call do quicker stuff with that message.
And we will call do quicker stuff also with the message. And do we need to pass it in here or? Nope. So it will go up the scope chain and just do a message like that, right? That should work. Let's see. Slow task is complete, quicker task is completed, and the message from do slow stuff is Richard right? Without a question mark, which is terrible grammar. Yeah, So that's also how we can pass things further down the chain. So that maybe we've done a fetch call again, right? And we've got something from this first function that we want to pass on to the second function. So it's a really common use case. Just make sure you create a parameter for it, assign it to an argument variable, and then render it or do whatever you want with it inside of your second function, or anything further down the line as well, right? It doesn't have to be used immediately in that second function. It could be used in another nested call. Yeah, nice. And then I guess the only thing left to cover, if we've got a little bit of time, yeah, I'd get Ricardo to cover promise all, I think, tomorrow. But how about this reject then? What is reject? So resolve, hopefully we can see that it's just an argument that we call when we want to pass something on, or when we want to go further on in the chain. We're saying this promise has been successful, please do the next item in the list, or please do the next function in the list. So how about reject?
It skips all the thens and stops at a catch if it's there.
Yep, so it skips all the thens. My dog agrees. And then we would do whatever we want to do in the catch. So we could probably write it directly in there, I think. Okay. So in other words, how are we going to make sure that something went wrong gets printed?
Add a reject in that function.
Add a reject in what function? In the do quicker stuff or the do slow stuff?
Whichever you like.
Whichever I like. So Richard said let's just skip all the thens. So let's show that it can actually skip this then function as well.
Okay.
So we're going to write it in do slow stuff, yeah, so that we don't run do quicker stuff at all. So you say put a reject somewhere. Where does it go? Yeah, so essentially I don't want both a resolve and a reject, do I? So I either need some sort of conditional to determine when I resolve and when I reject. So maybe, what shall I do? I guess I could let const, that's interesting, let const error equals, I don't know, yeah, 0, and then just if, or maybe I should make it true, and we could do something like if error, if there is an error, are we going to resolve or reject our promise?
Reject.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if we've resolved it now.
Yeah, ideally we don't want to resolve it if we've got an error, right? And then we need some sort of else. Sorry for my syntax. So we got set an error. If there is an error, then we call reject. Otherwise, we resolve it with Richard's message. This one needs to be, oh no, everything needs to be indented, right? Is that the issue? Confusing myself. Don't know why I've got a weird crosshair. Let's do it like that. Does that sort of look okay, or if I just really messed that up? Let's try it, shall we? See what we get. Oh, that was quick. So why did that run straight away? Where does my set timeout end? That's better. Yep. So I didn't have a callback function in my catch block, so it was just running the console log straight away. Just a little slip up there. So if we run that now, we should be able to see that we still invoke do slow stuff. So that will jump up here. We create a new promise, set the timeout. We log the slow task is complete after 2 seconds, but then we come down. Yeah, probably we didn't want to put that up there, but it doesn't really make sense. But anyway, then we set the error to true, and if the error is true, we reject it. So the else never runs, the chain breaks. We go down to our catch block and log out something went wrong. Yeah, so that's the flow of that there.
Can you rephrase that, please? Sorry.
Can I read it for Google or just for you?
For me, obviously.
Uh-huh.
Go up, please. So,
I'm at the top.
yeah.
Oh no, he's got lag.
What, so if there's an error, reject, else.
It was just an example really, just to see what the reject function does and how it breaks
Okay.
the then chain. Yeah, I'm not saying this is what you'd write in production, but I just manually set an error to something, yeah, so that we could put some conditional in there.
Cool. Alright, please.
Yeah, any other questions or extra input? That was part 1 of 2. That was part 1 of 2, if you like, of asynchronous code and how we control the flow of our applications a bit more in JavaScript. So Ricardo tomorrow will look at the async await syntax, which should tidy this first bit up quite a bit. Yeah, rather than creating new promises, we can use async await syntax to do the same under the hood, but it's just a lot more readable because that bit's not great, is it? This bit's quite nice with the then, the catch, that's quite readable, but maybe the actual creation of the promises is not too sexy at the moment.
You say so.
So, any questions on that before I close it up? Don't know if Abdul's listening. I did put the sound on. Hopefully he's managed to grab hold of some of that.
I just want to rub his belly, that's all.
Abdul's. He like that. Cool. Alright, we'll leave it there, yeah? Thank you very much.
Thank you.